My 29 male, older brother, 33 male, passed away last month in a freak accident. It was extremely tragic, and my family is still grieving. It was a shock for me because we grew up very close. He was always there for me and was my role model and best friend. I don't think I've quite processed the loss. It has been especially rough on his wife and kid, 7 female. He was the primary earner of the household, and my sister-in-law has a relatively low-wage job and significant amount of debt. Apparently, their family was living paycheck to paycheck. Now that some time has passed, the idea of how she and her daughter will get by has become hard to ignore. My mom has privately floated the idea that since I make a decent income and own quite a bit of property, that I could help my sister-in-law and my niece out for a while. While it's true that I have a lucrative job and a lot more in savings than my mother is aware, I felt uneasy about the idea and said I would get back to her. Yesterday, my sister-in-law said that she had gotten a second job and was really grateful I was considering helping them out. I was shocked. I hadn't realized my mom had talked to her about it. I tried to make it clear that yes, I was considering it, but was undecided. I think it came out harsh, since my mom quickly said, "He means he'll need some time." I stepped in to clarify any confusion and said I didn't know this was expected of me and that I most likely wasn't rich enough to give handouts. My sister-in-law was extremely hurt and began to tear up. She said she wasn't asking for handouts, that the most she would have asked for was my help with getting a small loan, but couldn't believe I'd be dismissive and make her feel small. "After everything we did for you," she said. I think she may have been referring to the fact that I lived with my brother and her during my first couple of years in college. They let me live rent-free and provided all of my meals. It was a hard time in my life, and they helped a lot. I feel sort of guilty, but I also feel I'm entitled to my savings. I didn't want to be backed into a corner. I don't think I will be helping my sister-in-law in any capacity, since she tried to weaponize the time my brother helped me out. My mother thinks I'm being cruel and selfish and dishonoring my brother's memory, and don't understand the meaning of family. Am I the a-hole? Yes, the a-hole. It was not the a-hole until this. During my first couple of years in college, they let me live rent-free and provided all of my meals. It was a hard time in my life, and they helped a lot. You're happy to take when you want it, but reluctant to give when needed, especially back to the same people who gave it to you. Yes, the a-hole. Factor how much rent and feeding a young adult would cost for those years they helped you, and stare at that number. Look at it. That money they spent on you should have went into their savings. Instead, they were gracious. You are in this good position in your life partly because of them. Yes, the a-hole. If it wasn't for the whole years of college rent-free thing, then I'd probably say no a-hole. But Jesus, your brother and sister-in-law took you in when you needed them in a much less serious way. And now that your sister has literally lost everything but her daughter, you're going to decline even helping her to get a loan? And she's not weaponizing the help she gave. She's reminding you of a time in your life when you needed help and they were there. 4 days ago, I received a call from my cousin, Charles. He's asking if he could borrow some amount because his girlfriend's dog got into an accident and is in dire need of an immediate surgery. I am a dog lover, and Charles sounds panicking, so I got convinced easily. I lend him 10,000 pesos, around $200, and that amount is no joke because I have to work for 5 days in order to earn that. Then, yesterday, I met Charles's fiancée at the mall while I'm buying a new phone. My first thought was to ask her how her dog is, but then I noticed that she's carrying her dog with her. The dog looks healthy, which left me confused. So I asked her about the accident, and even she was confused as well. But she changed the topic right away by flexing her diamond ring. Apparently, Charles proposed to her 4 days ago. She said it was too sudden, and that the day before that, they had a really huge argument because Charles seems to be evading the talk about their marriage. And it made sense to me. There is no dog accident. Rather, Charles made up that story because he was desperate to buy her a diamond ring. I got furious because I hate when people lie to me, so I told his fiancée about it. That Charles told me her dog got into an accident and I lent him $200 for the operation, which he probably used to buy her a diamond ring. She got silent before she said her goodbye. Then earlier, Charles barged into our home, furious and looking for me. He's mad because I told his fiancée that he scammed me, and now she broke up with him for good. He's blaming me for everything, especially since it is not confirmed whether or not he used my money to purchase the ring. In my defense, I told him that even if he didn't use my money to buy it, he still lied because the dog didn't get in an accident. Anyway, my mom sided with him, telling me that I should have at least confronted him first, rather than ruining a relationship and Charles's reputation. It's late night here, but I can't sleep because I'm still fuming in anger. It's unfair that everyone seems to be blaming me for this breakup. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your cousin lied, plain and simple. It doesn't matter what he used the money for. He made up an emergency to try and scam money from you versus just asking to borrow it. She didn't break up with him because of you. She broke up with him because he's a liar and a manipulator. I guarantee it's been a pattern in their relationship. Not the a-hole. You work hard for your money. There is nothing worse than a moocher lying to take that money. That's why if someone in that situation were to tell me their dog needed surgery, I'd offer to go to the hospital with them and pay for it there. That way, I know where my money is going. I never give money to anyone, though I'm very generous and have helped others buy things and pay for things, but I do it directly. Rest assured, you are not the a-hole at all, and you didn't ruin his relationship. He did. Also, you probably did the girl a favor. Now she won't be married to a lying, scheming a-hole. Not the a-hole. You told her that you gave him $200 for her dog's operation. That alone is a huge lie that he brought her into. I'm sure she would have connected the two situations as well. He obviously gave a poor reason when she confronted him. My twin brother, Josh, early 30s, has always been very irresponsible with money, had multiple brushes with the law, and was married to Kate, who has 2 brothers in jail for D crimes and another on probation right now. Josh and Kate separated in a very ugly divorce late last year. Josh and I are civil, but by no means close. We were estranged for 3 years because I refused to provide a fake alibi for Kate, who trashed someone's car after an argument. They have 3 kids, and if it was not for my nieces that I love, I'd have very little to do with Josh. I basically tolerate him for the sake of the kids. In late October, I got a Facebook message from a friend of Kate, let's call her Jade, saying that Josh owes her several thousand euros that she loaned him and Kate after my father cut him off because he got sick of bailing him out of financial strife. Jade says she needs the money urgently as she is pregnant. Her partner left her for keeping the baby, and she is struggling with money and needs my family to sort it out and give her the money back, or she'll be living out of her car. My father passed away in June, and my mother blocked Jade without replying, so I guess she turned to me. She has screenshot recordings of messages between her and Josh verifying the story. I replied, basically telling Jade that I'm sorry to hear she's struggling while pregnant, but whatever arrangement she made with Josh and Kate has nothing to do with me, and I want no piece of Josh's problems, and to take it up with Josh and Kate. I thought that was the end of it, but I traveled to some concerts in Los Angeles and am now spending 10 days in New York before flying back to Europe. I am now dealing with a bunch of Jade's friends messaging me, saying that if I can afford to travel to the US for a holiday and buy expensive concert tickets, I can afford to settle my family's debts, which kinda pissed me off, and I blocked them all without replying. Jade, or one of her friends, then started posting a ton of comments with a fake profile under my posts about what an entitled piece of crap I am, and I ended up blocking that too, and going private for now. I don't consider Josh's debts my debts. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh does owe money to people, and while I empathize with anyone suffering hardship if he doesn't pay them back, I don't see how that is my problem. I didn't agree to loans, and Josh and I are not close. I'd rather spend my money on concerts than fixing his problems. I do have enough money that I could afford to pay it back and still have savings, but I quite frankly don't want to use a big chunk of my savings this way. Jade's friends also said I should give her the money and then chase Josh for it, but I'm not willing to do so because I'll never see the money again, and I'm not the one who borrowed money. But a lot of people think I should fix up Jade because she is pregnant. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give her the money, even if it means a pregnant woman will be living in her car? Not the a-hole. If you pay off their debts now, more debts are sure to come. I feel terrible for their unborn child, but it's not on you to bail them out. Not the a-hole. As unfortunate as the situation looks like for Jade, you didn't take money from her, your brother did. She is not even pregnant with your brother's baby, which, by the way, wouldn't justify it either, but it would at least give her some merit for chasing after you so hard. Even then, it wouldn't be your responsibility. You're absolutely correct to block any and all toxicity from Jade and her friends. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Not your problem, and has nothing to do with you. She's out of line for contacting members of your family. Josh is a grown man. She can take him to court for the money he owes her. I, 30 female, invited my dad to visit me and my husband for a week as we live abroad. He brought his wife, who asked if her daughter Linda could come as well. I don't know Linda very well as our parents got together when we were already adult, but she always seemed fine, as does her husband James, so I said okay. Linda notified us that she would be bringing her foster child. Let's call her Sophie, 12 female. I didn't think this would be a problem, but I was wrong. Sophie was incredibly hyper from the minute she stepped in the house. She would interrupt conversations and demand attention. Linda did nothing about her behavior. The first few days were long and arduous, with Sophie complaining about every activity and meal without fail, and dictating the running order of everything, because if she didn't get her own way, she would have tantrums like a toddler and swear like a sailor. She also damaged some art supplies I let her borrow to paint with, and damaged the desk in my husband's study. We were all fed up, but felt sorry enough for Linda and James having to put up with it all the time that we didn't say anything. She also developed what I consider an inappropriate and weird fixation with my husband. She would demand to sit next to him at restaurants or at home, asked to hold his hand when crossing roads, and just generally latched on to him. At one point, she even tried to sit on his lap. The final straw was when we were all eating dinner at my apartment before me, my husband, James, and Linda were going out for the evening, and the parents would watch Sophie. Sophie was whining that she wasn't allowed to come, and Linda said it was an adults-only evening. Sophie finished her food and left the table, and 2 minutes later we hear something smash. We all run to the lounge to see that a very expensive ornament has smashed on the floor, and Sophie is standing there looking smug. She said it was an accident, but none of us believed her. Linda offered to pay for the damage until she found out the cost, and had the decency to be mortified and apologetic. But I'd had it. I told her to pack up the kid and go. She might be committed to this, but I didn't commit to property damage and having my life run by a child. Linda and James pleaded that Sophie was just feeling upset and insecure, but I'd had enough of cutting slack to everyone involved. Eventually, they left to stay in a hotel. My dad's wife was beside herself and said I should have had more compassion for what Sophie is going through, meeting new people and traveling for the first time, etc. And maybe some of her attitude can be explained by that. It's not the majority. While my dad is on my side about not wanting her around, he said it was overkill to throw them out immediately. But I don't see why I should have to put up with destruction in my own home and foot the bill for the privilege. What was the kid going to destroy next? Am I missing something here? Am I the a-hole? Okay, first of all, the thing with your husband. That's how men get accused of stuff when they refuse the child's attentions. That's a major concern already. Secondly, a lot of foster children are really messed up by a broken system, and behavioral disorders aren't uncommon. However, that is no reason anyone who did not consent to fostering the child should have to suffer the consequences of the behavior. Having your stuff damaged because you didn't give her her way is not acceptable. It's also concerning that her foster parents are not trying to correct or redirect their behavior. This is only going to cause the behaviors to escalate as she tests limits. Long story short, you did not have to endure a child with unmanaged behavioral issues who is destructive and possibly acts out in an adult manner towards your husband. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but neither is Sophie. Yet, I don't know what kind of trauma Sophie has in her past, but ultimately, the fault here lies in her enablers, your stepmom and sister. This child needs to be in therapy, and she needs boundaries and consequences. She cannot be allowed to act like this. 12 is old enough to understand and be better. Given the complete lack of control, you were totally justified in asking them to leave. My wife has never liked my mom. I'm not sure my mom likes her either, but nothing has ever happened and they get along well enough. Just very, very distant, though I would say my wife has begun to dislike my mom more since she had our son. I don't know why. My mom doesn't come around any more than before. She isn't overbearing, but everything she does is wrong with my wife now. One of my wife's biggest issues with my mom has always been that she is creepy in the sense her face never moves. No, nothing medical, and no butchered cosmetic surgery. And her voice never changes. She is witty, even my wife agrees there, but rarely laughs or smiles, and just seems totally emotionless. This really bothers my wife, as she claims it really scares her, and she has gotten offended before, such as when my mom didn't smile correctly in our wedding pictures. My mom got into a relationship about 2 years ago, and he is truly the only person in the world who can get any type of emotional response. Apparently her face does move, and she is capable of laughter. She even changes her voice with him, and to be honest, it did freak me out, but obviously I wouldn't say anything. My wife was offended by this, and now hates my mom even more. We saw my mom twice this month, which is a lot for us, but once was for a family trip. My mom was with her fiancé and being giggly, and I could tell it was really bothering my wife. The second time my mom came without her fiancé, and was the same as ever, no effect. When she left, my wife exploded about how she is creepy, selfish, kills the mood, and shouldn't be around our kids as she obviously has some mental health issues. I got mad, so she backtracked a little, and said she can take her in small doses if the fiancé is there. But I pointed out that I don't want him around all the time, and she blew up again. She said I need to protect our kids from the creepiness, and I'm spineless. I finally snapped and yelled at her, which I almost never do. I told her to leave my mom the duck alone. My mom has done nothing to her, and she doesn't owe us smiles or laughing or whatever. It's her body, and just leave her alone. I said I would not be making any changes, and if she brings it up to my mom, she is on her own and can see how that goes. Not the a-hole, and honestly, your wife sounds too obsessed with her mother-in-law. Not everybody has to have an expressive face. Honestly, your wife's behavior is the creepy one here. Not the a-hole. I probably wouldn't smile or giggle around your wife either. She's the one who actually sounds creepy. Not gonna lie, I came into this completely ready to defend your wife and call you an a-hole, but then I read that your wife doesn't like your mom because of her face, expressions. and throws tantrums over the fact that she isn't the most expressive with her face. Not the a-hole. Your wife is nuts. Absolutely ridiculous.